She watched her kid suffocate and said, let her sweat, punishment, or something else.
My throat burned as I tried to scream, but the air wouldn't come, just heat, thick and crushing, pressing into my chest. I slammed both hands against the window, over and over until they stung. I was 6, trapped in the back seat of our car, parked in the open sun outside a busy store. People walked past. Carts rattled by, and my mom was standing right there. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I remember locking eyes with her, thinking she'd open the door. But when someone rushed over and grabbed the handle, she stepped in front and said it, flat and certain. Let her sweat. The man hesitated, confused, until a voice behind her cut through everything, low and sharp. Open it, now. My vision started to fade as I slid sideways against the seat. And outside, my mom didn't move. The inside of the car felt smaller the longer I stayed in it, like the air was shrinking. Every breath came out shaky, too fast, and it didn't feel like it was doing anything. My shirt clung to my back, soaked through, and the seat burned against my legs. I tried again, lifting my hand, weaker this time, tapping the glass instead of hitting it. Mom? I couldn't even hear my own voice anymore. She was still there, right in front of the car now, close enough that I could see her face clearly. No panic, no rushing, just watching me like she was waiting for something. Someone else stepped closer beside her, the same man who had tried the door. He looked between me and her, his face tightening. Ma'am, she's not okay, he said, louder now. You need to open this, right now. My mom didn't even look at him at first. Her eyes stayed on me. Measuring? She's fine, she said calmly. She needs to learn. Learn what? My fingers slipped down the glass, leaving streaks I could barely see through the glare. The edges of everything started going fuzzy, like the world outside was pulling away from me. Then that other voice spoke again, closer this time. Not asking. Not hesitating. Open the door, now. The moment before the door opened stretched too long, like everything was holding its breath. A few hours earlier, nothing about the day had felt unusual. That was the part I kept replaying later. There was no warning, no big fight, nothing loud. Just the same quiet rules that always filled our house. My mom didn't yell. She didn't need to. When she was upset, things just changed. The air got tighter, conversations stopped, and I learned quickly that asking questions only made it worse. That morning, she barely spoke to me at all. We drove to the grocery store in silence, the sun already high and glaring through the windshield. I remember the seatbelt rubbing against my neck and how thirsty I felt. Can I have water? I asked, softly. She didn't answer. I tried again, a minute later, a little louder this time. Mom? Her grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. That was it. No words, but I knew that meant stop. So I did. When we pulled into the parking lot, the heat hit harder, the kind that made the air outside shimmer. She parked, turned off the engine, and just sat there for a second. Then she looked at the cup in my hand, the one I'd been holding the whole ride. A small line of juice had spilled onto the seat. It wasn't much, just a thin, sticky streak running along the fabric. But her expression changed. Not angry, not loud, controlled. Look at what you did, she said quietly. I didn't mean to, I whispered, already feeling that tightness in my chest again. She opened her door slowly, stepping out into the heat. Then she turned back toward me. Stay in the car, she said, and think about it. The door shut. A second later, I heard the lock click. At first, I didn't panic. This wasn't new, not exactly. She'd made me sit alone before, told me to think until she decided I was done. So I stayed still, hands folded in my lap, trying to be good. Trying to fix it by not making anything worse. Minutes passed. The car got warmer. Then hotter. The air stopped moving completely. I shifted in my seat, glancing toward the store entrance, expecting to see her walking back any second. But she didn't come. Not when the heat started pressing in. Not when my breathing changed. Not even when I finally unbuckled my seatbelt and moved closer to the door. Because that's when I saw her again. Standing outside. Watching me. And not reaching for the keys. She was already back, and she'd been standing there long enough to see everything. My hands were shaking now, sliding against the door handle as I tried it again and again, even though I already knew it wouldn't open. The metal burned my palm. I pulled back, then tried again anyway. Mom? My voice came out thin, cracked. Mom, please. Outside, people were starting to notice. A woman pushing a cart slowed down, squinting through the glass. A man behind her stopped completely, his eyes locking onto me. I hit the window again, harder this time, using both hands, the sound dull and trapped inside. She can't get out, I heard someone say. That's when the man stepped forward, the same one from before. He moved fast now, straight to the driver's side, yanking the handle like he could force it open. Hey, he shouted toward my mom, unlock the door. For a second, I thought she would. She stepped closer, close enough that her shadow cut across my face. But instead of reaching for the keys, she lifted her hand, stopping him. She's fine, she said, her voice even, controlled. Don't touch my car. The man blinked at her, thrown off. It's over 90 degrees out here, she's not fine. My mom didn't raise her voice, didn't look embarrassed. She spilled her drink, she said, like that explained everything, she needs to understand consequences. Inside the car, the words didn't make sense. They just floated, disconnected, as my head started to feel too heavy to hold up. I pressed my forehead against the glass, desperate for anything cooler than the air behind me. I said don't, my mom added, sharper this time as the man reached again. More people were watching now, a small circle forming hesitant, uncertain. Someone pulled out their phone. Another person muttered something about calling 911. But no one moved. Not really, because she was the parent. And that made people pause. My vision flickered. The edges of everything went dark for a second, then came back too bright. My hand slipped down the window, leaving streaks I couldn't see anymore. Then the man made a decision. He stepped back, looked at the glass, then raised his elbow like he was about to break it. Back up, he said. My mom turned sharply. Don't. Her voice cut through the moment like a command. And he hesitated. That 1 second, just one, was enough for everything to feel like it was slipping away again. I tried to lift my hand. It barely moved. Then, a new voice right behind her. Calm, firm, not asking. Step aside. The crowd shifted without anyone saying a word. A man stepped forward from behind my mom, tall, steady, moving like he already knew what he was going to do. He didn't rush, didn't panic. His eyes went straight to me first, taking in everything, the fogged glass, the way I was slumped, the slow, uneven movement of my chest. Then he looked at her. Step aside, he repeated, calm but sharper now. My mom didn't move. This doesn't concern you, she said, her tone tightening for the first time. She's my daughter. The man nodded once, like he'd expected that, and she's in immediate danger. It's called discipline, my mom snapped back. You don't get to interfere. Inside the car, their voices sounded far away, like they were underwater. My head leaned against the window, too heavy to lift again. The light outside felt blinding now, washing everything out. The man took one step closer to the door anyway. Up close, he noticed everything engine off, windows sealed, no shade, no airflow. His jaw tightened slightly. How long has she been in there? He asked. That's none of your business. It wasn't a loud argument. That's what made it worse. My mom wasn't losing control. She was holding it, gripping it tighter as more people gathered, as more phones pointed in her direction. The man glanced at the crowd, then back at her. It becomes my business when a child stops responding. I didn't realize I had. My hand, still against the glass, had gone still. A murmur spread through the people watching. Open the door, he said again. No. That single word landed harder than anything else. For a second, no one moved. Not the man, not the crowd. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled something out, flashing it just enough for the people closest to see. A badge. I'm an EMT, he said, voice low but clear, and if you don't unlock this door right now, I'm breaking your window and reporting this as child endangerment. Something shifted. Not in him, in her. For the first time, my mom hesitated. Her eyes flicked to the crowd, the phones, the man's steady hand already moving toward the glass. Control was slipping. But instead of stepping back, she moved in front of the door, blocking it. You're overreacting, she said, quieter now, but more dangerous. She's conscious. She's learning. The man didn't argue again. He just raised his elbow. And in that exact moment, my vision went completely dark. The last thing I heard before everything disappeared was him saying, I'm done asking. The sound that brought everything back wasn't my mom's voice. It was glass shattering. Sharp, explosive, close. Air rushed in, real air this time, not the thick burning kind, and it hit my face all at once. I gasped without meaning to, my body jerking as if it had been waiting for permission to breathe again. Hands were on me, careful, fast. Someone unbuckled the seatbelt. I didn't remember fastening again. Another voice closer, steadier, kept repeating, "I've got you. You're okay. I've got you." I was lifted out of the car, the heat breaking around me as I was carried into open space. Everything felt too bright, too loud, too cold, all at once. "Stay with me," the man said, the one who broke the window. "The EMT, Marcus." I tried to open my eyes fully, but they wouldn't stay focused. Shapes moved around us. People, phones, someone yelling for water, someone else already on the phone with emergency services. And then I heard my mom. "She's fine," she snapped, her voice cutting through the noise. "You had no right to do that." But it didn't land the same way anymore. No one stepped back this time. Within minutes, sirens filled the parking lot. Paramedics rushed in, taking over, checking my pulse, my breathing, wrapping something cool around my neck. I clung to that feeling without thinking. Marcus stepped aside, but he didn't leave. He was watching her, and so was everyone else. The truth came out fast after that, faster than she could control. Witnesses spoke all at once. Multiple phones had recorded everything. Her standing there, stopping people, saying it clearly, let her sweat. There was no confusion, no way to soften it. When the police questioned her, she didn't deny it. "She needs to learn consequences," she said again, like repeating it would make it reasonable. "Kids are too soft. This is how they get stronger." But this time, no one nodded. No one stayed quiet. Because now, it wasn't just a private moment. It was evidence. I spent the rest of that day in the hospital. They said it was heat exhaustion, close to something worse if it had gone on longer. I remember cold cloths, quiet voices, and someone staying with me the whole time, someone who wasn't her. She wasn't allowed in the room. Not after what happened in that parking lot. The consequences didn't stop there. Child Protective Services stepped in immediately. There were questions about that day, about other days, about how often lessons like that happened. And there were answers. Enough to make it clear this wasn't the first time something had gone too far. My mom was charged with child endangerment, not just for what happened, but for choosing it, for standing there and letting it happen when she could have stopped it at any second. The videos spread, people talked, neighbors who used to describe her as strict started using different words. And for the first time, she couldn't control that either. Days later, I sat in a quiet room with a window. Not a car window, not something sealed shut. An actual window slightly open, letting in a soft breeze. A social worker sat nearby, not too close, not too far. She handed me a bottle of water. I hesitated before taking it. Then I did. Slowly. Outside, the sunlight looked the same as it had that day, but it didn't feel the same anymore. Because this time, I wasn't trapped behind it. And the moment she told everyone to let me sweat was the moment everything she controlled started to fall apart.
If that was discipline, what else was she willing to do when no one is watching?